We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And by our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and check them out at www.crowdplayapp.com for details. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Hey everybody, welcome to Cage My IQ. As always, I'm your host, D-Bake. Today we will be recapping PFL Week 6, 2021, which was headlined by Kayla Harrison going up against Sydney Dandois in a women's lightweight matchup in the second leg of the regular season. Let's get started with the action right here on you. But before we get going with that, as always, we are Cage My IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch at the handles to the left. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We put out preview and recap videos as well as interviews. So definitely check us out if you're an MMA fan, and let us know what you think of our videos so we can keep doing better with what we put out. But as always, let's get started with the action. Like I said before, the first fight that we have on the main card was a heavyweight matchup, which saw Denis Goltsov earn 10 points as he defeated Brandon Sayles, who stayed at 5 points by third round TKO. These were both two guys who at the time were in the playoffs. Goltsov had 6 points, and then Sayles had 5 points going into this matchup. They both had the same height, but of course Sayles had more weight to him. And it was going to be a good matchup. But going in, you could tell right away that Goltsov was very confident with his jab. The first round was basically not too much action. Sayles actually had a little bit more production out of him. But Goltsov had the jab that was just affecting Sayles in the first round too much. He was able to hit him about 8 times, and he started to bleed in the nose because that jab was just working so hard on Sayles. And then at the end of the first round, Goltsov was able to take him down and for the last 20 seconds. And I think that affected him a little too much because once the second round came to, Goltsov was able to get 2 quick takedowns, and with the second one, he basically had Sayles down on the ground for over half the round, and almost locked him into a couple Ezekiel chokes, which basically gassed out Sayles, because once the third round came, which you could go either way with the first 2 rounds, but I went both rounds to Goltsov easy. Once you got to the third round, with the bloody nose and basically emptied out gas tank from defending the 2 chokes that Goltsov had him, Sayles really had nothing left in him, and all Goltsov had to do was take him down and basically beat him on the ground because he had him beat, and then he finished him off with the TKO, knocking him out while he had him on the ground. The ref called for the end of the fight, and Goltsov picked up the 4 points to add to his already 6. So now he has 10 points, and it locked him into the 2 seed of the heavyweight division, with Khaybulaev having 12 points and having the 1 seed. I think Goltsov is still going to be the favorite with his background that he has. He has a really good boxing style with the jab. And then he has the combat sambo, which has worked great for fighters. And I think he's going to, whoever he faces, he's definitely going to be the favorite. And I got him winning the heavyweight tournament when it's all said and done. So once again with this one, Denis Goltsov picks up the 4 points with the third round TKO over Brandon Sayles. And then to go into the matchup stats that we have for you right here, you had Denis Goltsov had 68 strikes landed, 14 on strikes landed, 14 leg strikes landed. He had 40 ground strikes landed, 3 of 3 takedowns, and 4 submission attempts, whereas Sayles had 52 strikes landed, 24 arm strikes landed, 23 leg strikes landed, 5 of 6 ground strikes, and then 0 the rest of the way. So basically, like, he did land more like arm-wise, but that's just because of Goltsov controlling the fight at the end of the first round and most of the second with the takedowns, and then having a couple submission attempts. But definitely Goltsov, his jabs were more effective than anything Sayles did. But let's move on to the second fight on the main card. We had a very nice featherweight matchup between Movlid Khaybulaev, who defeated Lance Palmer by unanimous decision in this men's featherweight matchup. With the victory, Movlid moved to 6 points, which guaranteed him a spot in the playoffs, which is whatever seed he is right now. It's to be determined because him and Bubba Jenkins both have 6 points, so they have to do a coin flip to decide who's the 3 seed and who's the 4 seed, with Chris Wade being the number 2 seed. And the 2-time defending champion Lance Palmer ends the regular season with 0 points. This was a fun fight in itself because the first round went off pretty slow, but you could definitely tell that Movlid was going to pick up the pace and that he was the guy who was gunning for this because he quickly got a couple takedowns, and his striking was just on point with this. He hit a lot of leg kicks that just stymied Palmer, and then his fast-paced striking caught Palmer, I think, off guard. And Palmer was never able to get his wrestling, which is his forte, going at all because Movlid was getting his going. He was taking down Palmer. He was holding him down for the first 2 rounds, and then he was just out striking him and out kicking him. Whereas in the third round, I think Movlid was like, okay, I'm going to take it easy a little bit. So he took a little bit off the gas pedal, and that's when Palmer finally got going. He stymied Movlid with a strike, and then but Movlid was able to recover right away and keep going. And the end of the round was third round was pretty fun, to where both fighters were hitting each other, stymied each other. But then Movlid, of course, made sure that he didn't get knocked out. And at the end of the day, won't waste too much time, but Movlid was able to pick up the unanimous decision victory over Lance Palmer. I had all 3 rounds going to Movlid because Palmer just didn't really get going. on any of the stats to try and keep him in it. And Movlid was able to control the pace, the movement, and the striking, which is why he won, and he's moving on into the playoffs. Whereas Palmer is going to be sent home, so get an early start with his vacation. But hey, he won 2 straight tournaments. So for him not to win it, it's not the end of the world. But if he wants to continue next year, he's going to have to work on his game because there's a lot of tough guys that are in the division now. But let's take a look at the stats right here. You had Movlid, who had 79 strikes landed, 34 arm strikes landed, 42 leg strikes landed. He had 3 of 3 ground strikes landed. 4 or 5 takedown attempts were successful. Whereas with Lance Palmer, he had 47 strikes landed, 36 arm strikes landed, 8 leg strikes landed, 3 of 3 ground strikes landed, and then he didn't attempt a takedown, which is the one thing that I said before was the glaring weakness in his game from this fight, because he should have taken a takedown attempt, but for some reason he didn't. And I think that's why he lost this fight before it even started. So Movlid gets 6 points and advances to the playoffs in the featherweight division. And the next matchup we have on here, we have Raush Manfio, who defeated Anthony Pettis by split decision to advance to the playoffs of the men's lightweight division of the PFL tournament. This was a very good one for the first couple rounds. A lot of people thought maybe Anthony Pettis should have won it because they thought he won the first 2 rounds. I'm not part of that. I thought going into it, there wasn't too much action in the first round. I thought Anthony Pettis won it slightly because of the striking. He had a little bit more striking, but then Manfio had him with the leg kicks. No one had a takedown in this whole fight, so that was kind of non-avoiding this. But round 2, I thought it was going back and forth between the striking and the kicks, and I felt like Manfio was able to steal it with the last minute because he came in strong in the last minute. And you always tell yourself, the judges always look at the last minute for some reason because they feel like the guy that finishes the round well, if it's close, they're going to give it to him. And I think they gave the second round to him because of that. And then the third round, it was all Raush Manfio. He dominated it from the start with the kicks. He bum rushed Anthony Pettis. It got him in the clinch and kneed him once really good that knocked down Pettis right in the head, knocked him down. He started to ground and pound him a little bit, but Pettis got backed up. Then he kneed him again, got him on the ground again, but let him stand up. And he just dominated the round all in all. Like, he was the aggressor. He was pushing the pace. Pettis came back at the end, but that round was easily Manfio. It probably should have been 10-8, but they scored it 10-9. And at the end of the day, the judges scored it 29-28. Pettis 29-28 Manfio, and then 29-28 Manfio to give Raush Manfio the split decision victory over Pettis, which guarantees Manfio a spot in the playoffs. And just like Lance Palmer, Anthony Pettis, who's the big signee PFL this year, ends the regular season with 0 points, and remains to see what he does now, if he comes back next year or if he retires, because he looked a shell of himself in the UFC. And I'm just interested to see what lies ahead for Anthony Pettis, because he's a great talent that's been around for over 10 years. And maybe he just needs to come back stronger. But whatever he does, everybody knows his legacy, but he doesn't advance, and Manfio advances to the playoffs, and now we got to see what Manfio does moving on. But moving on to the stats of this fight, you have Manfio, who had 93 strikes landed, 49 arm strikes landed, 35 leg strikes landed, 9 ground strikes landed. He had one knockdown and then no submission attempts, whereas Pettis had 60 strikes landed, 39 arm strikes landed, 21 leg kicks landed, and no ground strikes or takedowns or submission attempts. The ground thing there, to me, is the leg strikes, arm strikes were both dominated by Manfio. He had both of those plus the knockdown, and he picks up the victory. And I think that one thing, the knockdown, I think if you were the judges and you looked at the first and second round and watches, this was a guaranteed round for Manfio. And I think they just took the end of the second round and all of the third round, and that's what gave Manfio in the judges' eyes 2 rounds to 1 over Pettis. Just that portion of time, the last minute of the second and then all of the third. They gave all that to Manfio, and he was able to squeak by with the 2 rounds to 1 victory, and he moves on. So now let's get moving from this to the main event of the evening, which was a women's lightweight matchup that pitted Kayla Harrison up against Sydney Dandois, in which Kayla Harrison won by first round submission and gave her 6 points in the standings to move her to first place, tied with Pachenko, in which Kayla Harrison gets the tiebreaker and gets the 1 seed now, whereas Sydney Dandois, of course, lost this fight and finished the season 0-2 with 0 points. The first couple minutes were really good pace-wise. Sydney was able to do her own, but she just couldn't get any production after she went to go up, after being on her knees to go up to shoot for Harrison, and Harrison didn't bite and was able to jump on top of Sydney. And for basically the whole fight, Sydney was on the ground and Harrison was on her, throwing strikes, controlling the guard. And then with a minute left, not to waste time, she was able to get full guard and then get that one arm, and then for the arm bar. And with 15, 20 seconds left, she was able to pull back on the arm, and Sydney was able to tap right away because of the elbow was extended. And Kayla Harrison was able to get the first round submission victory to guarantee herself the number 1 seed in the tournament. Classic Kayla Harrison fight. She dominates on the ground, dominates on the feet for the short time that they were on the feet, and she picked up the 6 points. She's just very dominant, arguably one of the best women in MMA right now, with their ground game and then her much improved striking. Her striking looks better every time she goes in the octagon, and the ground and pound is her forte, and that's what she did in this to set up the submission and getting the victory with the 6 points to move on to the women's lightweight tournament playoffs in PFL. But if you want to look at the stats now to combat this, you had Kayla Harrison, who had 46 strikes landed, 1 of 3 arm strikes, 2 of 2 leg strikes. She had 43 ground strikes landed, and then she had the 1 submission attempt, which she got the victory with. Then you had Sydney Dandois, who had 9 of 10 strikes landed, no arm strikes landed, 1 of 1 leg strikes landed. She had 8 of 9 ground strikes landed, and 0-1 takedowns, and then no submission attempts. Most of her strikes were on her back, on the ground, because she was in that position the whole time. But she did present a unique situation for Kayla Harrison, but it wasn't enough because Kayla Harrison dominated this fight as she should. And at the end of the day, Kayla Harrison is easily moving on in the tournament right here. And she's going to be the 1, and Pacheco's going to be 2. And more than likely, if it keeps the way that it goes, these two are going to have a collision course in the finals once again. and we can see if Pacheco can get some revenge or if Kayla Harrison's going to win yet another PFL women's lightweight tournament. And then maybe if she does, we'll see her in the UFC or Bellator in the future. But that'll wrap things up with this PFL Week 6 2021 recap show by yours truly, D-Bake, Cage by IQ. As always, Cage by IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch at the handles to the left. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. As I said before, we got news for you next week about a business venture that we're joining into at the beginning of July. I'll let you guys know about that more in the future. And then we got our sponsors, 99 Jersey. Use promo code SportsBoxShow20 at checkout to receive 20% off your next purchase. We got Oddsjam. Go to the link in the bio of this video. Click it, sign up, choose from the several odds that are on there for whatever bet you want to make, and watch as you'll never miss a bet again. Once again, go to the link in the bio, click it, sign up, and watch as you never lose a bet again. And then lastly, we got High Tide Herbal. Use promo code CageMyIQ10 at checkout to receive 10% off your next purchase. Just go to www.hightideherbal.com. Check out all the products from this line as they use CBD in all the products. And their slogan for High Tide Herbal is that there are coaches and athletes that specialize in quick recovery. So if you're in that need of a product like this and you're trying to recover faster, use High Tide Herbal. Go to the website at www.hightideherbal.com and use promo code CageMyIQ10 at checkout to receive 10% off in the next purchase. As always, I'm your host, D-Bake. This is Cage My IQ, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Talk to you guys later.
Thank you for watching this episode of Cage My IQ on the Sports Box. Please remember to follow us on all of our social media outlets. On Facebook at Sportsbox Show, Twitter at Sportsbox Show, Instagram at The Sportsbox Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And also our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 free points. Thank you for joining us.